He was talked to a couple of weeks before the killing by professors who were telling him that he wasn't doing a great job. He was acting differently towards the women students than towards the men. He would put the women down.
He was already getting warnings and they were going to let him go from his position as a TA. Escalating factors then led to the final decision to take out his rage on these people.
We're finally getting pages and pages of concrete evidence in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. The affidavit in this case reveals a surviving roommate came face to face with a man in black, partially masked, but with bushy eyebrows moments after the stabbings. And that partial description and security video of a car like the Elantra that Bryan Kohberger drives allowed investigators to focus on him within a couple of weeks of the crime. The biggest break, though, in the case may have been a small metal clasp connected to the murder weapon, which had all-important DNA evidence on it.
So in his fantasy world, was he picturing the police investigation and figuring he'd get away with it?
I'm sure he was, yeah, I'm sure he was, which it's always the worst mistake, you know.
Thinking you're smarter than the cops? You got a master's in criminology, but I guess not a graduate degree in actual murder.
For some killers, the planning is the most exciting part because that's the time they have the most control over everything. So they have the idea of exactly how it's gonna go. They probably have mapped out the inside. I'm sure if he did this, probably had a sense of mapping out the inside.
But in the heat of the moment, you don't think that way, you don't act that way. He carried a knife in there in the sheath, which was his first mistake. He took it out and either dropped it or set it down, then forgot about it in the frenzy, walked by other people he didn't even see, you know, because he was in the tunnel vision again, that I said.
And a huge adrenaline rush, too, I would imagine.
Yeah, huge adrenaline rush, yeah.
He was in kind of a fog at that point, like a killing fog, like he just finished doing these things and he was now just needing to leave.
So his cell phone pinged again from the house about 5 hours after the murders. There's always this thought that the killer returns to the scene. Why would he come back?
Well, maybe he wanted to see if anybody discovered it yet, see if the police were there.
It seems to me that I think he came back early, like it was around 9 o'clock or so when he came back, and they hadn't called the police yet. So I'm sure he must have been very confused as to why.
And then things probably started falling into place in his mind and he realized, oh my God, I've left the knife sheath. And then he's frantically debating with himself, should I go back in and get it? Because that may have been what was going on in his mind if he did not mean to leave the knife sheath.